Coming. They won't break now. Okay, just like. Okay, so yeah, least high in chat there. And it's right there. Hello.
I like to wait for a natural break in the music.
It's a good thing. Well, luckily we are this storm that we were supposed to have today wasn't as bad because I don't think I would be having power right now.
Yeah, I heard it was going to be real bad, and all I got was a little bit of rain, a little bit of wind. Not too bad.
Yeah.
Mithril.
Which is better. Which is better than what happened out in the Midwest.
Joe. And it's the Dorbs.
Woo.
Yeah, I was supposed to work today, but oh, hey, Neko.
At least you're able to pronounce Neko correctly.
Neko Yamaka.
Neko Nyamakan.
Yeah.
There's a meow.
Y'all can hear me, right?
Yes.
Neko.
Yep. So y'all can hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Good. Okay.
So
I actually figured out how to do it this time. I remembered the one step I had to do in Streamlabs.
Yeah. I think that's good enough for like tags on to like
So
Tumblr.
who's your hat sponsor today, Geek?
This
Bubba Fez.
yes, it's no, it's the wrong thing. Hold on, it's just like I'm flustered. I'm all over the place. It's just like
you look like if a Shriner got back from a Star Wars expo.
No one needs.
I have a red jacket. I have a red jacket, so I can't be a Shriner.
Really?
We have a Shriners Lodge just right down the street from my house here in Tallahassee. And then I used to live like in a black neighborhood right around the street from a Freemasons, like a black Freemasons lounge.
So this'll be interesting. So
This was also right behind the black church, by the way.
This isn't too no, I don't think it's too. No, this doesn't give me away too much. So I used to be in Boy Scouts back in the day.
I'm sorry.
Back before well, actually I was in it right around the time my gender went off the rails too. So
it's not that surprising. Jesse Gender was also in the Boy Scouts too.
I shit you not, one of my trans girlfriends is an Eagle Scout. And what's interesting is that if you actually look statistically, there is the average rate of Eagle Scouts among past Boy Scouts, I think that about like 4 or 5% make it to Eagle. So what's fun?
I never actually made it to the Cub Scouts. The Boy Scouts. I was always in the Cub Scout, but I'm sorry, I interrupted.
We below.
What's really funny though, is if you look at the percentage of trans girls that are Eagle Scouts, it's actually higher than 5%.
Hey, if you're gonna go all in, you're gonna go all in, right?
So Eagle Scouts are overrepresented among the trans femme population, and it's actually
official.
Kind
Boy
of
Scouts
hilarious.
make you trans.
I mean,
correlation is causation.
I'm not saying it happened with me, but
and yet the Girl Scouts are trans positive that they welcome trans girls.
Looking back, one of the things that may have been one of the signs looking back was being in the Boy Scouts and wishing that I was in the Girl Scouts instead.
Like being
There were no signs at any point. But I only ever made it to second class. I had everything for first class. I was like halfway to fuck, what was the next one? There was first class, there was one other one, and then there was Star, and then Oh, no. It was Star, then Life, then Eagle.
Mhm.
So I had all my first class done pretty much. I had like half of Star. Like I actually dug into Life a little bit as well. But there was one thing that I refused to do. And part of it was because of social anxiety, but also the other one was because it just felt wrong to do it. So I joined the Scouts right when they changed the Scout handbook, which tells you the requirements for each level. And the new edition that I had gotten just as I started joining had a new requirement to make first class, and it was to recruit someone into the Scouts. And
Yep,
that just did not sit well with me for some reason. And I think back then it was the social anxiety. But as an adult, I look at that and it's like, that's wrong on other levels other than my social anxiety. And I flat out refused to do it. And because of that, I never made it beyond first class. I never made it to first class, even though that was literally the only thing left to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep, Mormons do that too with their religion as well too.
yeah, no, Boy Scouts is actually very. I don't know how many of you were in Scouts, but
I was.
There, Geek. There's a strong
often
emphasis on religion, and not just religion,
Christianity
in particular.
You guys are good, God-fearing Christian men, so you can go up and have women, and if dinner isn't ready, slap them. If dinner isn't ready, I guess.
The Boy Scouts felt very militaristic, at least the troop that I was in, and I just was not a fan.
You could say it's like the Hitler Youth. Right?
I don't know. I don't know how many fascists were into the Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts before.
The parallels are there, but that's a correlation, not a causation.
I agree.
Yeah.
So there's definitely like strong sense of liberty, unity, and responsibility. Like a Geek, I'm sure you remember some of the Scout law and stuff like that, and like the Scout oaths.
The Scout helps a pack grow. Oh man, I know. I don't remember the Scout oaths as well too. I remember this as low as 2 fingers.
It's really long
as well too. Yeah.
There's also the Scout law where it was like the 12 things that a Scout is, and the Reverend one always kind of got to me. It was the last one. It was the last one too. God, I actually remember some of them. I don't remember the whole damn thing, even though it's been fucking years because they pounded it into our heads. But the thing that always kind of caught me was when they say Reverend, it's like, what if someone was Jewish?
Yeah.
What if someone was Muslim? What if someone was, God's forbid, pagan?
Well, there are many ways to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior.
Interesting that like there was an atheist that did want to be part of the Cub Scouts and want to do all the things for his merit badge or something like that, but he was an atheist and devout atheist as well too. So I think there was a Supreme Court ruling where it's just like I should be exempt from the faith requirement of like getting like a merit badge as well too.
And they said nope, they're a private organization, they can do whatever the fuck they want.
Right, very much as well too.
They did eventually cave and let trans people join, but that was right around the time that they filed for bankruptcy. So, or maybe the timeline is not exactly the same, like literally, but they were not too far off from each other compared to the rest of the history of Scouting. So, meanwhile, the Girl Scouts are doing just fine. They're basically living off of their cookie sales. So
hey, they're damn good cookies.
They're fucking good cookies.
Except for the ones with coconut. Fuck coconut.
Oh, shut up.
Okay. Round room, real quick. What is your favorite Girl Scout cookie type? Mine's Thin Mints.
Thin Mints.
Mine's just Samoas or the Caramel Delights because they're called two different things depending on where you get them. In here in Washington State, they're called Samoas, but other places called Caramel Delights. And our friend of the show, like the other
Sean.
rigger, Shawan, you have your hand raised. What is your favorite Girl Scout cookies?
Buenos dias. Well, see, I have 2 boxes of Girl Scout cookies sitting on my desk, like about maybe 18 inches from me, because the one taxi driver in this little 1 horse or less town, I've been using him for about 7 years to go back and forth to work when I was working or whatever. And his daughter sells Girl Scout cookies, and he usually gives me like a slight discount, which I wouldn't care anyway, but I have a box of the Caramel Delights and I have a box of the Thin Mints.
Nice.
Also, Siobhan, I just want to say, I am definitely not gushing over that the necklace of yours at all.
This was put on me over a year ago, and I don't even have the key for it. He's got
it. Say less.
Anyway, sorry, yelling at my computer.
Come on, you are speaking my language right now, okay?
Well, I'm not going to do a long bio, and I try not to
no, you
overrun
don't have
everybody
to.
else because, as Jonathan and John and I say and whatever, I can talk for 4 hours by myself.
Isaiah's had his hand up for a while.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm almost done. But I am a boomer, trans woman, former part-time sex worker, and all-around loudmouth. Isaiah?
Fuck yeah.
I was saying I a couple when I was around with my dad back in the day, I had the thought about joining the Boy Scouts because I wanted to make those wooden cars.
The Pinewood Derby.
I wanted to do that shit, but I wasn't really into the whole organization. And of course my dad would always shoot me down and say, you can't do anything worthwhile.
Because he's an asshole.
Damn.
Yeah.
I was in the first and only Pine Derby I was in, because I was in one, was 1965. It's been a day or two ago.
Yes.
Siobhan, I bow to my trans femme elder.
Thank you. This is the first time we met, by the way, so hi.
Hi. I guess I'll give the quick introduction about myself then.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Neko Nyamakan, not my real name. It's my gamer tag. I am let's see, do I want to do the IRL? Yeah,
Whatever
I'll
you
do the
want.
IRL. Yeah,
Whatever you want to do.
Whatever you feel safe with.
Yeah, I'm a millennial trans femme, and I am a huge science nerd, which is the main reason why I get to be in this podcast from time to time. Specifically, I have a master's degree in meteorology, and yeah, it is. Weather meteorology is basically my life's passion, and it's not a stretch to say that it's kind of my life meaning. It's given my life its meaning in many respects.
I'm a huge science, cosmology, physics, paleontology documentary geek, and one of the things I like to watch or one of the documentary types I like to watch on YouTube is weather systems on other planets.
Oh, I love that.
Space weather!
Yes!
Space weather!
I love nerds.
Jupiter, you've got let me think, which one is it? Is it Titan?
Yes.
Europa. I'm trying to think which one it is.
I think
Wait,
I think I know where you're going.
Hexagon at the top of the moon?
Saturn.
Saturn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's North Pole.
No,
And
Hexagon.
then the winds of Saturn, which is it? Neptune, I think, has the fastest winds in the solar system.
Like 1,200 miles per hour on Neptune.
I think they've said it can get up to 2,000 miles per hour. Let me check that. Real quick.
It's quite a bit.
Well, I remember
whenever I think of Neptune, I always think of these. I think it was the late 70s, early 80s show V.
Yep, 1,200 miles per hour, 2,000 kilometers an hour.
Who had faster than light travel? Okay, so they flew right past Neptune to steal our water. Well, there's a planet there that has like hundreds, if not dozens, of times the water that we have, but whatever. It's a TV show, so it doesn't have to do logic.
There may be,
It's like Fox.
there may be planets out there where there's like their oceans maybe like thousands of miles deep. To
There, yeah.
so deep that the water becomes like an exotic form of ice called Ice 7.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, my the
There's
two
like
novels
13
that I'm
forms of
working
ice.
on, which will probably take me until
Yeah, and then there's
2100
Ice
to
9
finish,
Kills.
but, the two novels I'm working on, one is called Saturn Rising,
Mhm.
and it takes place in the space station called Thalassa, which orbits Titan. Okay.
Nice.
And then the other is the first expedition below the ice of Enceladus.
Hmm.
I thought
Nice.
about writing a science fiction story about a hurricane hunter that gets transported into Jupiter's Great Red Spot to I guess do some science there.
And die.
Well, yeah. Well, not quite. It's actually like a story about this like in Jupiter there's this like oppressive civilization that lives on this floating city, and like this hurricane hunter has a good heart, so she leads the revolution to stop that, because it's something like that.
Have you ever
Good.
read any of the Asimov Lucky Star series?
I
No.
haven't,
No.
but
Okay,
The
well,
only
you know,
Lucky Star I'm
it's,
aware of is the anime.
What are they called? Heinlein juvenile. The juvenile stories, So it's boys are the heroes, and girls are there to provide dialogue, to support the boys and whatever. But it's Lucky Star, who he's basically like this Ubermensch, and he goes around the different planets, which all have atmospheres that humans can breathe to some extent. All have gravity that humans can tolerate. Venus does. Mercury does, et cetera, et cetera. And it was written way like 1930s, I think. The latest, very early 40s that Asimov wrote it. And they're okay, they're not great and whatever. But he said in every single one of them that he wrote, because he wrote like an updated forward, I was wrong. Science, this sucks ass as far as science goes. But he said it was still fun to write.
So anyway, John Brockman, you want to ask Necronomicon some like questions about like interesting weather events that you experienced like 2 weeks ago in the like South Carolina area, your neck of the woods.
I have already forgotten them.
It went from fires to freezing.
Oh, yes. One day it was a fire warning. The next day it was a freezing warning. It was...
Yeah, you better fucking remember I did a few hours of research on it last night.
So it's like Michigan.
Geek said to me, and I quote, if you don't come to this podcast, we will not have any material to work off of. We will have to make it up as we go.
Well, we never have material, but that's what you get for taking
little.
Geek seriously. Or me seriously, for that matter.
6 days ago, it was 65 degrees here, and there's snow this morning. And then a day and a half from now, it's supposed to be 65 again.
I think that's just spring.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you mentioned that because so this time of year, so there in meteorology we actually have our own system in terms of how we define seasons. Okay. And the way that we do so normally seasons are defined by the positioning of the sun and specifically like how long our days are at a given time in the year. So our seasons are defined by the solstices and the equinoxes, which also helps define some of my holidays. So yay. Yay. Pagan. So anyways.
Today we're going to celebrate the coming back of the sun by eating chocolate eggs with cum inside them.
Anyways. Okay, Siobhan, you and I are going to get along great. Anyways. So as you know, like a lot of those days tend to be like towards the ends of their respective months. So like the winter solstice is towards the end of December, and summer solstice is towards the end of June. However, you'll notice that a lot of times, a lot of the kind of weather events that we tend to perceive with summer or winter tend to happen before those dates. So in meteorology, we define our seasons by the beginning of the respective month. So summer, for example, is June 1st to the end of August. So June, July, August. and then September, October, November for fall, December, January, February for winter, and then March, April, May for spring.
Pretty much what it is.
And the main reason why we do that is each season has its own type of weather patterns. So winter and summer have very well-defined atmospheric setups, and a lot of it has to do with the positioning of the polar jet stream. So, is it the polar or the subpolar? It's one of the main jet streams. Oh yeah, it's the polar jet stream. Because what will happen is during the summertime, it's usually further up north and very well defined. And during the wintertime, if I recall correctly, it tends to move a bit further south, and it can sometimes form into two separate jet streams. I'd have to check on that to be certain. This is stuff that I'm trying to remember from my classes from, fuck me, like 7 or 8 years ago. and the notes I took are back at my parents' place. So
These are the plague times. Time has no meaning.
And meanwhile, she has an entire fucking internet that she right in front of her. But anyways, the point is that.
Well, no, the internet's for porn.
Hey, no need to call us out like that. Anyways.
I'm calling myself out for that.
Don't forget the cat videos.
Oh,
I mentioned it 2 weeks ago.
or hear me out. Porn involving cat girls.
Yes.
That too. Or my favorite, which has nothing to do with porn, ever, and that's one of the reasons why I had the logo for my show, ever, baby goat videos. There's absolutely nothing cuter. I mean, I like dogs and I like cats, but they can suck it as far as that goes.
There's the porn.
So anyways, the main thing about spring and fall is that they are transition seasons. Now we know that in terms of like how nature works. It's like spring is the time where like plant life starts to come back, things start to get greener again, and then fall, the colors change and everything. Well, that transition happens in the atmosphere as well. And what can happen is when you are in spring or fall during this transitionary period, you can get a lot of weather extremes happen all at the same time. So it's not uncommon for like record highs or record lows to happen very close to each other, or sometimes even the same location over a difference of a few days. It's kind of like if the atmosphere was going through puberty, and like in puberty your body's experiencing all of these different changes and sometimes different extremes all at once. Yeah, it's kind of like that, except it happens every fucking year.
Okay, look, I've done 6 years of second puberty. I don't need a third one. Okay?
Hey, I'm on 3 now, so
I have a question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So it's just anecdotal, but I've thought this for years.
All right.
Okay, so first of all, in the Michigan area, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Indiana, Illinois, whatever.
Gotcha.
Maybe it's not so much nostalgia, but looking back, because my memory, but like when we would go trick-or-treating on Halloween when I was a kid, 5, 6 years old, my mom would have to buy suits or costumes that were 2 sizes too big to fit over our snowsuits.
Yep. I grew up in northern New England, and I heard those stories often as well.
So I think, just as I said, anecdotal, I could be wrong, but I think it seems like the seasons have shifted farther in the year or two. Like when I came back to Michigan in '97, a day or two ago, we had like a dusting and whatever, but we didn't have any snow that stayed even more than a day until Christmas Day when we got 8 inches.
So
This first time
I know you're going with
8
this.
inches of anything white. But anyway, so
I know you're going with this, by the way. So,
then, I said, then I think they started moving forward, but then also, it just seems to me like during the time of change, okay, which isn't, menopause, during the time of change, that's when we get the most precipitation. Now, the other 3 seasons, it's usually rain, okay, but obviously, like from fall to winter, it tends to be more snow. I could be wrong.
No, you're on the right track. So it's funny that you mentioned this because when I was doing my master's research, so my master's research involved the precursors to polar vortex events.
Mm-hmm.
So the big cold snaps that we have happen every now and then that get referred to as polar vortexes.
Vortices.
That is a whole thing in of itself that I can gush about. But to get to your point, your anecdotal evidence actually is backed up by some of the research that one of my colleagues actually was doing while I was doing my own research.
Cool.
So he was doing research more on just the New England area, so like the Northeast. But what he was finding was that the weather patterns associated with wintertime. So remember how I mentioned that we tend to we base our meteorological seasons on those weather patterns. He noticed in his research that the fall and like the fall transition and the wintertime patterns were shifting later. They actually were starting to shift later. So what you were finding is that the fall kind of atmosphere was lasting later and later, kind of creeping into November and into December more. And the wintertime pattern was starting later, but it was also ending later as well. It was starting to creep into like March and sometimes even April. The problem, well, that's already a bit of a problem in and of itself. The other issue is that the summertime weather patterns, like the time at which the summertime atmospheric setup started, did not change. So what was happening is the spring transition is getting squeezed. It's becoming shorter. So oftentimes you'll look at it and just be like, how the fuck is it 80 degrees? It was literally snowing the other day. That's kind of part of the reason. It's because spring is happening more rapidly than before.
Climate change?
Yes. This is absolutely a climate change signature.
And I do have to ask you a question, Neko.
Yeah.
So this may be actually a pretty old question, but what was your like scientific analysis when Trump said he wanted to nuke a hurricane?
He's a dumbass. That's my scientific.
My scientific analysis was a deep, heavy, sorrowful sigh. But we really want to go there.
This is the same guy who drew a hurricane path on a map with
I
a
just
Sharpie.
want you just to tear him to shreds.
All right. So here's the thing. Nuclear reactions, uncontrolled nuclear reactions, are obviously very powerful.
Yep.
The thing is, you have to think about the scale at which they occur versus the scale at which a hurricane occurs.
So we just need to drop more nukes, is what you're saying.
Shut up!
Anybody got a gag?
No, what you'd have to do is you'd have to strategically place one in the middle, then you'd have to create a ring of them in the middle, and then a ring on the out. Anyways,
Don't
Can
forget
we
the
also
lightsaber.
make them do a funny dance, like an old movie from the 40s? Like, say,
yeah,
like,
the point is
dance?
that the point is that a hurricane is much larger in scale than what a uncontrolled nuclear reaction would be. So it might affect it, but certainly not to the amount that it would severely disrupt a hurricane, both in terms of its strength and its direction.
Not only, but hurricanes also have like more energy than like hundreds of nukes anyway.
Yeah, that's the point. That's one of the aspects of scale I'm referring
And it just seems to me like, hurricanes are generally statewide.
Yes. Hurricanes
And then you have a bomb that's like the size of New York City.
we can blow up a city.
Hurricanes are on a scale of literally hundreds of miles across.
Yep.
So
Remember, this is from a president who can't read.
this is also from a president who took an
Sharpie.
official.
And he also
Yes, you're fucking yes. I was
Look
gonna
at
get the
fucking
Sharpie game.
sun.
You fucking beat me to Sharpie Gate.
Look at the sun too.
Theoretically, Sharpie Gate should have sent him to prison right then and there. It
Yeah.
should have done it.
He
But
also
but the bar is so fucked that
he looked at the sun too during the solar eclipse we had. He looked
you know
at,
what? You know what? I honestly don't care about that one because that just goes to show that
He's only endangering himself at that point.
You know what should have ended everything right then and there was if any president, including Republicans, if any president had done this prior to his first term, either the Bushes, Reagan, Clinton, Obama, whatever, and had mocked a disabled reporter, it would have ended it right there.
Well,
Once that was fine with his base, I was like, you know what? No, it's over with.
y'all remember when Howard Dean got basically taken off the presidential
he was
race
like-
because
he was
he
just
got excited one time?
He was enthusiastic and was, chanting back to the crowd, yelling, but chanting back to the crowd because the media decided they didn't want him to be, running. So they tried to use whatever excuse they could. I was a fan of Howard Dean for a while.
I grew up in New England. I knew about Howard Dean even as a kid. So it was I was bummed. I was honestly bummed, and I didn't understand why he suddenly dropped off. And then when I finally found out the reason why, I was like,
Washington.
That's kind of stupid. And then and now looking at how the state of things are now, I'm just like, y'all.
One of my favorite pick-me-ups though is to watch Trump regret videos on YouTube. And not so much the videos themselves, because most of them are on TikTok, and I don't have TikTok because TikTok can kiss my big white Irish ass. But like people that I follow, Tom Smith and what his last name is, Collins, and there's Hawk and whatever. Okay, anyway, a bunch of content creators on the left, and not Democrats. They're on the left.
Yes.
But we'll play a video or whatever, and a very short video or 2 or 3 videos, very short clips, 20, 30 seconds or whatever, of people supporting Trump, and then after the, like a month or so, before a month or so ago, literally crying on camera, like one woman was, dancing, because she had a Trump shirt on or whatever. And then she's crying about they took her EBT and they took her SSI and they took her everything and how's she gonna live and whatever. I'm like,
it was one
get ready to do some strange for some change. I'm telling you.
I mean, get a job and work, like you tell all the blacks, you can do that too.
Also, Siobhan, you mentioned that you're Irish, which I'm honestly not surprised given your name. As someone,
French name.
two things I want to say. Someone who's also part Irish, yay. Also, tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day, which means respect your fellow
yesterday
snakes
was
tomorrow.
St. Patrick's Day. I know because everyone was really drunk.
Respect. Show some love. Show some love for your snake friends tomorrow.
Here's my only problem with that. I fucking hate St. Patrick with a passion.
Hence why I'm saying show some love for your snake friends tomorrow.
I'll have to show it to you, off the show or whatever, because it's in my computer somewhere. It's run by gerbils, so I don't know where it's at. But I can, like very minimalist art.
And there goes my internet.
Upside down.
And my internet's
got a
back.
snake on it.
They missed everything you said for like the last
And it
5
says,
seconds.
"Hey, St. Patrick, you fucker, you missed one."
Siobhan, can you do me a favor and send me that? I definitely don't have a water bottle that I want to put that sticker on.
Oh, absolutely. I've got quite a few of them, actually. Quite a few pages.
Literally, you had me at pentagram, and then you just kept going.
If you want, because it's not selling that much, so I don't care. If you want, I will send you a copy of I have a cookbook called Food for the Seasons.
Ooh.
And
You're telling me this as I'm literally stimming with my pentacle pendant that I wear at all times.
And it's not like a regular cookbook. Like here's a poultry section and here's a salad section, whatever. Okay, what it is it's 4 menus for the solstices and the equinoxes. Okay, start to finish. A meat dish, a starch dish, a vegetable dish, something to drink, and a dessert dish.
Oh, God,
I'm
please keep
even going
going.
to add one. I'm going to make a new addition to add one because you can use potatoes for all of those. Okay.
Hell yeah.
But 'cause I did have a cooking channel too, but so and it also gives you like times, you know, how long they take to cook or whatever, and like the 4 ones, Lipa is barbecue turkey legs, Mabon is stuffed turkey meatballs,
You're making me hungry right now. Fuck.
right. Yule is what the fuck is Yule? Oh, fish chowder. You know, because not every Irish food is just corned beef and cabbage, which I do love. And then
Yeah, some of them are beer.
and then in the spring is breakfast pizza.
Ah, nice.
I personally love doing like a good beef dish for Yule. It just it feels kind of it was a tradition in my family for Christmas, and it's something that I enjoyed and like to hold on to
You guys have,
personally.
like, way better
Well, like
life.
that one, I think is fish chowder. There is a pineapple, lemon, punch, which can also be, you know, like you can either do an alcoholic version, non-alcoholic version. Alcoholic, you use pineapple rum. I can't remember what the starch dish is. The vegetable is like no, the starch is roasted garlic and lemon pasta. Just a bunch of good stuff. Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, Geek, I saw your comment, part Irish and part a lot of things. Yeah, so a third of my ancestry is evenly split between Irish and Scottish. So yeah.
Like
Nice.
My best friend out west is Scottish. And okay, I know it's not historically accurate, but I still love the movie Braveheart. Okay. And of course, you know, I'm Stephen. And because she is mostly Scotch with some Irish, okay, she's William, all right. So I did like a meme. I made a meme where it's 2 pictures of each, right? And there's 2 versions. One is when people tell you they don't want to hear that, and you both look at it, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then the other was so it's the same picture, okay, same shape and everything. And it's like me talking to her because her name's Jessica, okay. And then I bring in Brendan, and I'm like, Jessica, are you ready for the fight? He's like, Brendan, are you ready for the fight? He says, no. What do you mean you're not ready for the fight? We've been doing this for 3 hours. You should be ready for the fight by now. He says, the potatoes aren't ready yet. And I'm like, okay, we can wait a little bit. And Jessica's like, we can wait a little bit.
Oh no, Isaiah, you had a question. So like you're now.
I was saying you guys have way better lives than I do. Most of my sucks.
I just like spend like most of my 20s playing poker, honestly, and watching anime. And now I just like we work 11 hours a day and then like play video games. And
I
then
spend
like
my day driving around in circles.
Turn around.
I get a little bit terrified. I see the fucking look in your eyes.
Yeah, but I'm retired, so there.
Turn around,
White guys.
Y'all, I heard something. I heard about a very interesting product recently, and I fucking couldn't believe it. Apparently, they make like air fresheners that you can actually control with your mind. And it's pretty crazy to think about, but trust me, it makes sense if you think about it.
All right, where the fuck is it?
I love how
I think only Geek got that one.
If you're I'm not sure if you're thinking about like. Wait a minute, are you referring to the men who stare at goats?
No, I'm saying it makes sense when you think about it. It's an air freshener that you can control with your mind.
Oh.
You know it's a good joke and you have to explain it multiple times.
Yeah, and then when you have to explain a joke, it's like, really? I gotta explain this? And he goes around to different planets.
How would you describe this storm system we just had? That
All right.
it started at dusk, then it went on to tornadoes and.
So the what happened this past couple days was crazy. So it was our first high risk issued of the year and first one of the year. For reference, the designation of high risk in severe convective outlooks are not common at all. In fact, we've gone multiple years in a row without having one. But sometimes we've gone in a year where we had like 2 or 3 in one season. So sometimes there are various factors, like global factors, that can affect the prevalence of severe weather in the US, including like the El Nino La Nina oscillation. So that's one of them. And that's the one that most people know. There's a bunch of other ones that can affect it that most people don't know unless they really study this stuff. But that's like the one that everyone knows about. I'm not hearing Isaiah right now.
No, I was saying like air masses like down in Canada and Alaska and like Mexico and all that stuff. Does that also affect it too?
Well, those are the typical setups that you get. So convective weather in the US typically involves a combination of cool, dry air coming down from the Rockies or Canada, and then warm, moist air coming from the Gulf of Mexico. And sometimes, yes, and I still call it the Gulf of Mexico because that's what it fucking is. Anyways, you will not change me on that.
No.
So, and then sometimes if you get dry air from Mexico, that also can play into it as well. So this time around, this past few days, we had the perfect setup for it. We had a huge cold area of cold air that came down from Canada, and it was able to mix in with the warm air coming up from the Gulf of Mexico, and you get those ingredients together, and you get some vorticity, get the rising air action, and yeah, you can get the severe weather. And if all the ingredients come together in the perfect proportions, you can get the kind of days that you had the past couple days.
I love weather. This is why me and Nico are like I'm more of a space guy, but I love meteorology.
Yeah. So in terms of the whole North Carolina and South Carolina wildfires, I actually did take some time to look at the conditions that occurred during what I presume is the time that you were talking about, which was like the first weekend in March. So I actually have some tabs that I can pull up to kind of demonstrate. So let me carefully try and change my...
You're watching the Weather Channel on Social Justice Alchemy.
There you go.
So it's interesting because when it's easy to find data when it's like only been within like 72 hours. So if it's been long, like once it gets beyond that, it starts to get a little bit tougher to find archived data. And certainly the current administration is not making that any easier.
No.
So
I've had to worry.
But what I can show, so I'll kind of give you a brief insight into how I kind of do these kinds of things. So I usually like to start with like news articles because oftentimes news articles actually can provide a good insight into what analysis sites you can use. Because if it wasn't for like, it wasn't this particular CBS News article, it was a different one that I ended up getting rid of because this one was more in line with the timeline. But without it, I wouldn't have found this site. This is the North Carolina Forest Service. And what they do is they show all of the different wildfires and their statuses within the state. And by doing that, I also found one for South Carolina as well.
Neat.
So these are the current ones. Let me refresh them real quick. Yes. So for reference, most of the wildfires that had happened during the time that you were talking about have pretty much been contained and are no longer active. So like in South Carolina, there's only one that's active, and it's actually quite close to Myrtle Beach. And even that one is 70% contained.
Mm.
I'm guessing when you were talking about one of the big ones, this might be one of the ones that you were talking about.
All I know is I live on the other side of the state, and they were telling me to be careful.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
John, like in relative to where, like Columbia or
Greenville, literally the opposite side of the
Greenville. All right. So
where in one of the Carolinas was there like a like there's a story in which like the U.S. Air Force dropped an H-bomb, and one
that was
it
in
was
the Carolinas, and it didn't go off.
right.
it did not go off. Yeah.
It was like one low-powered fuse stopped it from going off.
Yeah.
Yikes!
The U.S. history. But anyway,
We are competent.
This is a thermonuclear, so this is not like what they dropped on Hiroshima. So this is way more powerful, by the way.
We might be
Yeah.
competent compared
Well,
to
it's an H bomb. It's a hydrogen bomb. That's
Right.
an entirely different kind of nuclear device.
Yeah.
But
So, in terms of fire weather, theoretically, wildfires can occur just about anywhere.
Mhm.
I mean, we all hear about them happening out west, like in California or like Montana, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, Nevada sometimes.
Mhm.
They tend to occur out there a lot because the conditions that are necessary for wildfires tend to happen there quite often because areas of the West tend to be more subjected to the kind of extremes that can lead to wildfire production. Of course, they can have the extremes go both ways as well.
Mhm.
So, but that being said, those ingredients can happen just about anywhere. So there's what's known as a red flag warning, and there's other warnings as well. There's the red flag event, there's the fire weather watch, and they all have their own kinds of criteria. So a primary red flag warning requires a relative humidity of 15% or less, combined with sustained surface winds or frequent gusts of 25 miles per hour or greater. Both conditions must occur simultaneously for at least 3 hours within a 12-hour period. So that highlights two of the most important ingredients for wildfires. That is low humidity, which means a very low amount of moisture in the air. Ergo, the air is very dry.
Dry. There's also, so you also need fuel, which is
Yep,
like
we'll get there. We'll get there.
That's
We'll
the
get there.
trees.
I need a jump.
We'll get there. There's a method to this madness.
Tesla.
So, and then the other one is frequent winds, and either sustained or gusts.
Yeah.
Now, there's two main reasons why that is the case. One is high winds means a lot of air movement. That means a lot of fresh air and oxygen to fuel the fire.
And spreading the
But
fire.
exactly, that's the second one. It allows the fire to spread a lot more easily and a lot faster. Because it's not just the direct flames itself being able to move around, it's also the embers that show up in the smoke. They can travel for a farther distance, and you can get what's known as spot fires.
Yeah.
So you have the main fire.
They're light enough to be carried, heavy enough to fall and really embed themselves.
Yeah, end up on more fuel, and basically start a new fire from that old fire.
I was basically surprised when the fires were happening in LA that people didn't know that, but instead they blamed it on Antifa. Antifa was setting the fires, or Antifa, immigrants.
Well, I mean, everyone knows that, as Bruce Springsteen taught us, you can't start a fire without a spark.
Anybody got a long slingshot?
Isaiah, despite the absurdity of what you had mentioned, there actually is an interesting thing to note about wildfires and like how they may start. because if it can be proven that a wildfire was started by a person, then it can be claimed as arson, and it would actually allow insurance companies to reject their fire insurance policies because it was marked as human caused rather than quote unquote an act of God.
Capitalism, yay.
Yep.
No, I was just saying that's what Fox News always was saying. You know, it was DEI. You know, it was, you know, so.
Yeah, they always well, they were like even like the back in like 2020, like the Oregon State Highway Patrol, and I'm not saying that they're great people or anything like that, but they even say, please stop blaming Antifa for these wildfires because they didn't, and they're actually helping. So you're not helping the cause by like blaming them and attacking Antifa for.
It was
like,
probably all those felons that were out there, because I heard there were felons out there during the wildfires.
They blamed January 6th on Antifa.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
they did.
Also, I kind of find it funny in like the
Ironic.
extremely disappointing and depressing way. I kind of find it funny how the Team Red is very much anti-DEI, whereas if you literally look at the Electoral College, it's literally just DEI for them.
Yeah, it is.
Veterans, old people. Yeah. Sorry,
And
like,
also, yeah, just smaller rural states.
Women, disabled people.
Yeah.
So, trying to get back to the thing.
Sure thing.
Desperate attempt at trying to lean communists away from politics.
Good luck with that one.
Guys, I have science. I have science over here.
That's acceptable. That's acceptable.
I have the shiny science over here.
I brought science.
So the other thing that is potentially important for red flag warning criteria is dry thunderstorms. So this is how a lot of natural wildfires tend to start.
Small amounts of rain, plenty of lightning.
Small to almost none. So what'll happen is you could have a thunderstorm end up over an area that's very dry. So like the upper atmosphere is able to support the thunderstorm, but the air underneath it is so dry that the rain evaporates before it makes it to the ground. There's actually a term for it. It's called virga. And
That's happened
virga,
in, South Dakota.
The Ben Shapiro
Yeah.
effect?
that's only when girls are around him. But anyways,
I have a question for you.
all right.
Well, it's actually for everybody, but you know, it's not so much science, but it is, I guess, in a way, and it is weather related. So now, what are the extremes that everybody has personally seen? You know, because you hear a lot of, you know, different places or whatever. For me, when I first moved to Oklahoma, I lived there for 4 years, which was 10 years too long. But anyway,
Oh boy.
when I first moved to Oklahoma, I was working a pipeline and construction crew, and obviously before I was out. And one day I kept asking the guys I was working with, like, is it just me? Because I'm a Yankees hot. And they're like, no, it's hot. So when I got home at 6 o'clock that night, it was still 106. With the heat index, it was 131. And then on the other end of it, it's not the coldest. As far as I know, Tower, Minnesota was 60 below. That was the coldest in Minnesota. Obviously, Alaska can get colder. But for me personally, the coldest I ever saw in Minnesota was 35 below.
You're far away from all that water.
Coldest I ever experienced was when I was in college. It was I went to college in the Northeast, and I remember waking up one day because I walked to class, woke up, it was 25 below zero. And I remember waking up, looking at that, and thank the gods it was not a windy 25 below zero. It was a calm 25 below zero. And I woke up, got outside, and I was like, fuck this, I'm taking the bus, and literally everyone else had the same thought. And the most extreme heat I probably ever experienced was a humid 100 degrees in the north, also in the Northeast. But I will say the one that kind of caught me off guard the most was experiencing 80-degree temperatures in Alaska. You don't expect that, but Alaska can get surprisingly warm during the summertime, and in fact,
it's the Ring of Fire.
If you look at data, you'll actually realize that the state that tends to have the most wildfires in terms of acreage burned is Alaska and not California.
Makes sense.
And there's a reason why. There's two main reasons why. One is because there's so much acreage up there that is forested, uninhabited, and can be burned. And two, because those areas are so remote and because there's almost nobody living there, there's almost no point in trying to put them out. So it just makes more sense to let them burn naturally instead. In fact, when I was up there, one of the things that my family did was we basically went on this like 5-day bus road trip that started in like Seward, Alaska, worked through Anchorage, went up through Denali, and then ended in Fairbanks. And while we were up there, it was actually it was in August, and it was during one of the years that they had like the most wildfires. And while we were driving through Denali, we didn't see any of the fire, but the smoke was so thick. It was like you could barely see a few hundred feet in front of you. It was so incredible, and I'd never seen anything like that. That was also the first time I experienced earthquakes too. Was when I was in Alaska because, well, Pacific Ring of Fire. So,
yeah.
I've always wanted to experience an earthquake for some reason. I've always wanted to feel what one feels like.
The most extreme weather is like temperature wise, I think waking up and it was a 15 degrees Fahrenheit, but that was so extreme for me because I don't have the heat on in here. I don't need to. The heat of 115 degrees one summer as well too, but also an extreme weather event. Ash fall in Seattle because the local forces were on fire. And including the rainforest we have in Washington State was caught on fire. The rainforest on fire. So
you guys have the giant hornets that live there.
No, thankfully I haven't experienced that yet.
Our sky gets affected. So I've mentioned this enough times, so it's not real. It's pretty much common knowledge. I live in the Boston area, and the past couple of years we've gotten like the smoke and the smog from the Canadian wildfires.
Yep.
And
some of it here too.
I can always tell when it's happening because I'll go outside and it smells a little bit, and if my girlfriend steps outside, she starts coughing like crazy because she has no tolerance for any particulates in the air at all.
Yeah.
I mean, down here in South Carolina, we got affected by the wildfires in Connecticut last year. Was it Connecticut? Not Connecticut, Canada.
Yeah. We had some a few days where they had what do you call it? Air quality warnings here in Michigan because of Canadian fires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, Michigan is right next door. You should expect it.
Well, like, my hometown.
I mean, it's just that last year they were so bad that I was seeing haze. You know?
My hometown is north of a good chunk of Canada. So
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Remember, the Canada is the south of Detroit.
Yeah.
But Isaiah's been very polite, very patient. He's had his hand up a while.
Very patient. That's very autistic of me. No, I was saying to Nico's question, the coldest I ever experienced was when I went to Washington D.C. back in 2008, like for December. I literally thought when I got off the Amtrak, I was going to literally freeze from the inside out.
Yeah, that's December. It's easy to believe.
So were you an extra on the day after tomorrow or something?
I wanted to be. Well, this was in 2008, but I wish I could.
When the day after tomorrow?
I'm gonna have to get going here, people, because I have my own show in about half an hour. Okay. So thank you for letting me on as usual.
No problem. It was glad.
It was nice meeting you.
If it's that okay, that's okay to do a nickname for you, Neko, because I like to nickname everybody. Because otherwise,
Neko is what I get commonly referred to as,
'cause
anyways.
I'm AUDHD, so my memory just gone.
Yay, fellow ADHD.
Hey, me too.
Well, I mean, hey, it's a joke. Hashtag not all people, but if you put circles of ADHD, autistic, and trans, they're just like one circle for the Venn diagram.
It's basically a single circle.
So I here in a little bit, I'm going to be on YouTube as the Angry Wrench Speaks. I have that on Blue Sky. I have a writing account on Blue Sky called Shawan of the Fae. I have a comic account that I started 2 weeks ago called the Existential Cafe about different various gods and a lounge up in the clouds where Satan is a piano player.
Can you send me a link to this, please? You have my attention.
Sure. Odin and Yahweh are the two major characters in the series. Like Cthulhu is the sushi chef. Persephone is Venus is the torch singer. Persephone is one of the waitresses and the ex-girlfriend of Yahweh, and she's bipolar. I'm also bipolar. And then Satan and Yahweh were college roommates until they had a falling out over a ceramic hedgehog. But anyway, so all that crap, is whatever, and Geek is nice enough usually to put that up or whatever. And anybody who wants to hop on, I'll see you in about half an hour. Just so you know, if you want to watch it later, whatever, rerun, that's fine. But just so you know, I don't do civil discourse, okay? Which doesn't mean, that, I can allow Nazis with them. No, no. But my show is, I don't use profanity every other word or whatever, but my show is very much direct. I don't tolerate bigots. I don't tolerate Nazis. And I skirt the edge of the YouTube terms of service. Every show, I don't care. I just don't care.
Yeah.
So anyway, where is it? Slan, adios. Arrivederci, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen, later dude. Thank you for having me on, and y'all have a great day. Peace.
Des Vidania,
Yes. Joel, ding dong day. Just like in
how's speaking of Russia, how's Volvacat doing?
I haven't talked with Volcat 17 in a while or something like that, and I've been meaning to try to hey, maybe remind him about the he tries Patreon hangout as well and but then again that one gets filled up in within 5 minutes, so it's maybe not able to get in. It's we'll see. So that
I know the thing where you have to keep refreshing your email.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the sort of thing is just I think he's doing fine because last time I talked to him, he was getting married. So I think everything's okay, and he's still
hopefully to a woman, because otherwise Russia will kill him.
Yeah, unfortunately, no. He has a cousin that's gay, and he does know that. That's the truth as well too. And so so that's at least for now one thing that the U.S. has over Russia, but that's not saying much as well too.
They're gonna roll that one back just as soon as they can.
Yeah, but I think Bubblecat's doing fine. But anyway, Neko, do you still have more of your presentation?
Yes, I do.
There's always more.
I love Neko's enthusiasm. Oh my god!
Told you, she's adorbs.
So we mentioned the humidity, the lack of humidity, and the wind speed and the winds.
Yes,
is a factor. One of the common factors for a lot of not dry, but natural wildfire creation is dry thunderstorms. So what'll happen is, as we mentioned, the atmosphere can support the production of thunderstorms, but the air underneath them is so dry that any rainfall that occurs will evaporate before it reaches the ground. It's called virga. However, that doesn't stop the lightning production from happening. So you get lightning but no rain. So those lightning strikes can hit a tree, cause them to ignite, and it's virga, it's too damn dry. So the fire can start and continue.
Yeah, the lightning strikes is also a Aerosmith song as well too. When the lightning strikes.
Wow.
And my Aerosmith started at Armageddon, so
anyway.
So other contributing red flag factors. significant cold, and I'm going to highlight the second one here because this is actually the one that's going to be relevant.
Mhm.
Significant cold frontal passage expected to cause strong, sustained, and gusty winds and an abrupt wind shift. Of heightened concern are dry cold fronts that have the above characteristics, but little or no rainfall, and expected when there are ongoing wildfires or prescribed burns. The RH does not meet the criteria listed above.
Mm.
This was one of the main contributors to what happened in North and South Carolina, because you mentioned fires and then suddenly it got wicked cold.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
I managed to find this map here, and you can, it's from a site called Meso West, and what you can do with it is you can
So the
get.
Midwest.
We already made the Ben Shapiro joke, Mithril.
It's worth keeping it alive.
So I've set up this map to display two main measurements. So these are observation areas, and they display on the left side relative humidity
Mhm.
and wind gusts at a certain time. So in this case, the time was, let's see what time options. The time was March 1st at 23:38 UTC. So let's see. March 1st was before daylight savings time, so that means you subtract 5 hours from this time to get the Eastern Standard Time.
No,
So
no.
23
There's real time, and then there's what you people have.
Yeah. So 23:38, that's 11:38 p.m. minus 5 hours. So this would have been 6:38 p.m. on March 1st.
Let's see. So that would have been Saturday.
Yes, that would have been Saturday.
Mhm.
And as you can see, there are some pretty low humidities here. Like
I
some
can't
of
really
them.
because it's so small.
All right, let's zoom this sucker in. So you mentioned Greenville, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Here, I can show you where I live.
No need to. But the point is look at the humidity levels here. You have low 20s and even some teens. You have 11% here, 14%, 15%, 13%.
It felt like it.
These are very, very dry dew point, or very, very dry humidity levels.
Mhm.
These are the kind of humidity levels that can very easily sustain wildfires. Out west in California, when the Santa Anas occur, they'll have humidity levels get down to the single digits sometimes.
Mhm.
The air is that dry.
Well,
And so on top of that, you have areas with, well, there you go, 25 mile per hour peak gusts, 24, 31. So it's not surprising to me that they may have put out a red flag warning during this time. It's not surprising at all. Now, there's another factor that is important to the potential wildfires, and that is drought.
Mm.
So
doy.
the fuel needs to be dry in order
Yeah.
for it to be able to burn.
Mhm.
So it just happens that the Carolinas are under a, let's see, we've got
A Ben Shapiro rating. That's all I had to say.
you've got moderate to severe drought going on, and it's short term, but also a shorter long. It's closing in on long term, especially close to the coast. So this map is very important when looking at potential for wildfires, and also just the kind of recent weather for the area.
Yeah, fuck Texas.
So what is important here is the areas that are within the solid line are delineated as areas of dominant impact.
Mm.
So Central California and Nevada and the Carolinas.
Just off the Appalachians, looks like.
Yep. And not only that, there's a second bullseye as you get closer to the coast.
Mm-hmm.
So dominant and oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
So where I live up here in New England, we've actually been dealing with a drought for a while now as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's no
Is
surprise
there some sort of
that,
changing weather pattern that we should be concerned about?
like,
I mean,
with
sort of a
something like
long-term
this-
trend that's been going on for a while.
Well, this is kind of tricky because you'll notice that none of these are particular.
climate change.
Yeah, none of these specifically say long term. All of them say either short or short long. So short term impacts generally are less than 6 months. So that can affect agriculture or grasslands. Long term impacts are greater than 6 months. And if it's SL, it's short and long term. So I don't know exactly how long this drought has been going for, but it is getting to a point where it's being sustained over a long enough period of time. And yeah, there are certain factors. I mentioned El Nino and La Nina. They can absolutely contribute to those like whether or not you get a lot of rain or you get drought.
West Coast rather than East Coast.
Like-
No, it's the entire country. It's definitely the West Coast, but no, you can use El Nino and La Nina as a variable for potential climate conditions or long-term weather conditions for the entire country and pretty much most areas of the world for that matter.
I did not expect that.
Yeah. It's definitely more acute in the West Coast because El Nino and La Nina are a Pacific Ocean oscillation.
That makes
And so the effects are more direct. So El Nino and La Nina can affect the production of the atmospheric rivers, which we have talked about in this before.
Yeah.
Those are the systems that bring repeated rounds of precipitation along the West Coast. That's why you can get the mudslides sometimes, especially after wildfires. It's why the Sierra, like the West Coast mountains, especially the Sierra Nevada, can get multiple feet of snow. So yeah, but the entire country can be affected in different ways by El Nino and La Nina.
Yeah.
So we have a well-established drought happening in the Carolinas. So already, if we know that the air is going, if the immediate conditions are going to be conducive for wildfires, this is another layer on top of it. So looking at the past weather, I managed to find past weather for both Columbia and Charleston. And I see what you mean by the sudden, like, warmer temperatures and then it's dropping right off. And I chose Saturday as the example for this because Saturday looked like it had the strongest wind speeds.
Yeah,
during
it
that
was
time.
really gusty that day, and then the next day we were going to have the cold front coming in.
Yep.
So but then I stayed inside all day, so I missed it.
So it's interesting because you had 2 days of sustained cooling. So you can see that there was like the peaks and the valleys.
Yep.
During each day. So that is what's known as the diurnal effect. And the diurnal effect is yes, it's basically the temperature change that you would expect as a result of the presence or absence of sunlight.
Sunset.
It is a variable that we have to factor in when considering like multi-day trends, such as the cold front that you're talking about. So what you
and
can
you have to
see
measure
is,
noon to noon or something like that to get long-term changes.
Yeah. So what you'll notice is, yeah, the temperature dropped right off on Sunday, and then it dropped off even more, and yeah, it bounced back on Monday, but this was a pretty big cold front for it to have effects over multiple days. And it's very interesting that the humidity...
Well, it's the South. We do things slower down here.
Yeah. Well, it's also... Y'all should lay off on the biscuits and gravy then. I had that one time. That shit's like cement. No wonder why y'all never can't do anything afterwards.
Oh, don't hate on grits and eggs, because I'm
not hating on the grits and ham. I'm not a huge fan of grits personally. I do like
over
ham,
easy
like
plates, mother covered and capped. Tell you what,
biscuits and gravy. You know what, y'all just keep eating it, because at least if y'all keep eating that, I know the South will never rise again. So.
We'll never get out of our chair.
So don't, we're gonna sink before we rise because of climate change. So.
I mean, isn't gravy just like meat juice, like the fatting, just with like cornstarch mixed with it to thicken it up? Which
is ironic that you say that, Isaiah, because if you have a higher percentage of body fat, you actually float better in water.
Right. I'll do good in the Dead Sea then, because
yep, dripping stock and broth and seasonings.
So, anyways, it's very.
That's kind of the same thing as like Saturn being, having a lighter density than all the other planets, because it's made.
It can float in the bathtub.
Yes, it's because the combination of gases that it has is less dense than water. Now, it's worth noting that there are gases that are very dense. I don't know if there's any that are more dense than water necessarily. I'd have to look into that. I don't think there are.
Chlorine?
I don't think there are.
What about ammonia?
Well, it depends on how much pressure they're under, obviously.
Yeah, because ammonia under enough pressure becomes a liquid instead. Yeah. Or if it's combined with another chemical element.
But yeah, I don't know too. I mean, there's just a lot of gases you can come up with.
The heaviest gas that I know of. The heaviest gas that I know of is like sulfur hexafluoride.
That's
which is
the
like
fun
one. Yeah, that's the one that's 6 times more dense than air. So it's funny because you know how so you know how helium's lighter than air, right?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So the fact that helium is lighter than air is the reason why if you breathe it in, your voice gets higher and faster.
Yeah.
If you breathe in sulfur hexafluoride, your voice gets lower and slower.
Hold on a second. I'm about to bring up a YouTube video of some guy beatboxing with sulfur hexafluoride.
Yes. Fuck yeah, do it.
Okay, I'm going to need to share my audio.
Let's
see.
You would probably have to watch the YouTube stream for the video, since as things goes funky with OBS when John Brockman tries to share the screen in the Zoom call.
Yeah, it's because Zoom and OBS and all this stuff is used in my video. So here comes the beatboxing with sulfur hexafluoride.
What's up, guys? I got a very special video for you today. I'm beatboxing with sulfur hexafluoride, which is
a gas that is 5 times more dense than air. So the more dense the gas, the slower sound travels through it.
It's hopefully going to make my voice incredibly deep like a demon.
Any type of gas that you put in your lungs that replaces oxygen, you don't want to do for too long.
So that's why I have a resident expert here to make sure that nothing happens to me when I attempt this experiment. And I promise you, none of this audio is edited. As far as I know, this is the first ever beatbox with sulfur hexafluoride.
First ever!
The world's first.
Take your own in. Hey, but before you do it, doesn't it feel weird? Hold the balloon. It doesn't go up, it goes down.
It's heavy, you can feel it. It's weird.
Oh my god! Oh my god! This is not real! This is insane! This is real life!
Isn't that crazy?
Is this real life?
I know!
That is so sick!
That is so gnarly.
That sounds just way deeper.
Here's your normal voice, and then we went down here.
That is an actual dubstep bass.
Oh my god! Sounds like it was auto-tuned.
Oh my god, it's still my voice is still in there. It's still in there.
Okay, real quick point. Although this sounds like a lot of fun, you have to be careful. But because it's heavier than air, it'll just stay in your lungs, so you can suffocate on this stuff.
Yeah, you can.
But we're gonna keep going. There's another minute and a half.
Also, I want to make it known as someone who is a demon type we don't all sound like that.
Yes, imps and lesser devils are known to be squeaky.
No, that's not what I mean. Like us female devils just have a dommy mommy voice instead.
All right.
Baby, lock the doors and turn the lights down low.
Oh my god!
Oh yeah! Oh
my god, they fucking did a Josh Brolin
song. Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Oh yeah!
All right, we're gonna try a little jam.
I love that they did Josh Turner.
All right, kick it, Fitz.
That was pretty good, man. I'm back. All right, I got it all out.
That was pretty sick. Nick, thank you so much. Check out all of his socials. They'll be linked below. And make sure to give this video a like and a comment if you enjoyed it. And make sure to subscribe.
It's slowly getting higher, too.
Yeah, man. It's been amazing. It's been absolutely amazing.
I love that. Back when I was still teaching, I used to show that. And then I would remind them, if you ever do play around with this, you got to clear out your lungs. You know, go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
As you can.
Yes.
Gotta be careful doing that too.
Back to the other side.
And I looked it up, and according to Google's AI, the only way you would get gas denser than water is with high pressure. And Isaiah, I've got a question for a while.
3 things to ask. Well, one
Sure.
is okay. So, what do you guys think about my shirt? I've had it for a while, but
that is a cartoon.
Love that cartoon growing up.
yeah.
Never
Bit
seen
after my time.
And after I think in the last 2 was I really like Neko's avatar, like her avatar, and I was thinking about using that as like a starship captain for my Star Trek story.
Aww. So I think I mentioned it while you were here at one point, but this avatar I made completely myself. With no prior digital art experience.
That's probably a lot of work too, as well.
It took me so this is Neko 2.0.
Right.
Neko 1.0 took me about 2 weeks to make, averaging about 2 to 4 hours a day. And a lot of that was scrolling through YouTube videos trying to figure out how the fuck do I make this tail work.
Yeah.
Because fun fact, I used Vroid to make my avatar, and tails are not a preloaded feature, and when you do a tail, it's actually a hair bone.
Yeah.
And hair bones, no matter where you put them on the body, default at having their center of gravity being your head.
Yeah.
So imagine a tail trying to be put at the base of your spine, and it leaves your body because it's moving with your head. So you literally have to go into fucking Unity with the avatar and then move that particular hair bone center of gravity down to the waist.
Yeah.
And it's so Vroid 1.0, which I made Neko 2.0 off of, had pre-made cat ears at least. So I had that going for me. So,
and the last question is, so people are saying that Tornado Alley is moving more eastward.
Yes.
I have a theory, and I want you to see if I'm either close, wrong, or I'm right on, or I hit the nail on the head. So I'm thinking if it's moving eastward, I'm wondering, is that because there's more urban development, which is raising the overall ground temperature because cities are more warmer than the surrounding area. So if it's moving more eastward, especially if it's moving more southeast, I was wondering if the the increasing like development of like the southern states, like Florida where I live, that's just adding to like the heat, which is causing like the like Tornado Alley to move a bit more to the east. So basically you're combining the heat from the Gulf of Mexico and the growing urban development of the South, which is causing the jet stream to dip more southward, and that's like moving the jet Tornado Alley. Am I on something, or am I just talking out of my butt?
So the concept is not too far off. Like, yes, more development will definitely contribute to larger bubbles of urban heat island effect and more of them. But the issue is a problem of scale.
Okay.
So urban heat island effect is on a very small scale, meteorologically speaking. It's on the it's more on the, I'm trying to think if mesoscale and if there's one in between, but it's more on the micro scale.
Okay.
So micro scale meteorology is the type of meteorology, is the scale of meteorology based on the smallest of sizes and shortest of time. So
Don't
scales
body
of meteorology are so scales of meteorology are based off of the it's a scale of both space and time. So generally speaking, larger scale in terms of area needs more time for it to be affected or for it to change. And oftentimes scales tend to work within each other. Now, mind you, a synoptic scale event can absolutely affect a mesoscale event. It absolutely can. But it's not as common for a smaller, like a micro scale event to affect a mesoscale event on the level that you're talking about.
Okay.
For it to cause like a consistent change. So what it could potentially do is, if you have more areas with urban development and more urban heat island effect, that could potentially strengthen a storm while it's over that region.
Cool.
So like the more heat, slightly more rising air, during the duration that it might be over that area, the storm could potentially have more of that heat and moisture fuel, and it could potentially see a small increase in strength. It could. I'm not saying that it will, but the math is there where it could be possible. But that really only is an effect that occurs within that smaller scale. It doesn't really have the ability to affect the scale at which those storms occur. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So the eastward trend that you're talking about is absolutely a thing. It is absolutely something that has been noticed, but those kinds of changes would need more either mesoscale or synoptic scale factors to cause that kind of effect. You need, like, it has to be either more on the scale of the event itself or on the next scale up.
Okay.
So
yeah. I'm trying to think what exactly the reason why. So for one, it's also worth noting that there are actually multiple distinct tornado alleys in the U.S. So you have the classic, well-known tornado alley in the central Midwest region. That's that's like Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, going up into the Dakotas, like Iowa, Minnesota,
Missouri.
Yes, Missouri, absolutely. But there's also another one known as Dixie Alley. That's the area that includes like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, and that one has its own distinct timeline. That's the one that actually can contribute to more early and late season outbreaks. Mind you, they absolutely can still get the regular season outbreaks as well. Just look at April 2011.
I
for
just
one.
got really bad when that hit Enterprise, Alabama, like a decade ago.
Yeah,
Tornado.
yeah. But the point is that Dixie Alley's starting to get more prominence year round. And overall, yeah, the trend is that Tornado Alley isn't necessarily shifting eastward. It's that its its eastern boundary is creeping eastward.
So
If
you're
that
saying
makes
there's
sense.
possibly a way we could build a sort of a curve, a ring of cities that would steer tornadoes into Elon Musk's stuff. Yeah, yeah.
If only.
It's easier to use freedom potions than firebombs, honestly. Do not do stochastic terrorism.
Yeah. So
That's the casting if we're all working together. Then it's communism.
But it's not necessarily that it's the whole damn thing is shifting eastward, because we're still absolutely seeing large tornado events in like central Oklahoma, into Texas and Kansas, but we're starting to see more of them happen further east as well. So it's like the bullseye is getting bigger, and as it's getting bigger, it's shifting east as a result.
So cities like Atlanta and places like that have to be on the lookout now for tornadoes.
Potentially, yeah. I would say more like, well, not to say that they weren't already, but like Chicago, Indianapolis, Memphis, Nashville. Atlanta too. Like, yeah, any of those cities, they already have tornado risk. And if you look, you'll actually see that there's like a bullseye in like Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. Some of the strongest tornadoes ever recorded occurred in Michigan and Ohio. Most prominent example was 1974 super outbreak, the Xenia, Ohio tornado.
Yeah.
And that's not Oklahoma, but it's still like it's certainly conducive. The atmosphere, it's all about where those ingredients show up when they show up together. Xenia, Ohio is one of the only tornadoes that ever actually unofficially received an F6 ranking. And it's one of the only tornadoes that has ever been considered for having an F6 ranking.
So what about what do you think that the 1920, I want to say 1926, like that the tri-state tornado, do you think that was one tornado or several?
That is a very tricky argument to make one way or another, just because
I love that you just know that off the top of your head which tornado he's talking about.
Oh, I know exactly which one he's talking about. It's one of the most well documented. It's one of the most well known tornadoes events of all time in the U.S.
There was one that killed over 1,000 people too.
It killed 680.
Yeah. Well, this one is in I was talking about one in Bangladesh, but I guess.
Yeah. So there's multiple arguments that can be made that the tornado could have been the same one, or it could have been a family of tornadoes from the same supercell. So we have had documented events of a tornado that lasted more than 100 miles. A single tornado. It has happened. In fact, we had one happen recently. I want to say it was December of 2023. It was the quote unquote quad state tornado, where it started in Arkansas, went briefly touched through Missouri, and then spent the majority of its time in Tennessee, and I think it made its way into one other state at one point. Point is, that one, what they found was that the storm track had about 200 miles of tornado path, and what they found was that the first one was 50 miles, only 50 miles, and the second one was 150 miles, continuous. So the point is that a 200-mile single-track tornado is not out of the realm of possibility. It's entirely possible. What you need is a supercell that is able to sustain itself for hours at a time, which is hard to do, but it can be done. And the main question that so when they tracked the tri-state tornado, they noticed that there were definitely like moments where the tornado weakened to the point where it could be believed that it actually was no longer on the ground. But the question remains, and the thing that we don't know is, when it lifted, did a new funnel form and then create a new tornado, or was it the same funnel that lifted and then touched down again? And that's kind of the question that we don't know and probably will never be able to answer, because
unless a super smart cat girl gets it done and wins a PhD, a Nobel Prize.
God, I did my time in academia. So
all right, it's after 3:30.
All right, so I
Nick,
do have one other thing I wanted to show real quick to kind of define what you were talking about visually, and I'll get to that real quick. So as we were talking about, like, very warm, very dry, and then it cooled down a lot, but it still stayed dry. Usually, if you have like a cool down like this, you kind of expect there to be like some sort of like rain or storm event, but that can't happen if there's no moisture in the air. So I wanted to look at the analysis of of the air mass that kind of basically came in during that time. So this was March 1st at 15 UTC. So minus 5 hours. This would have been around 10 a.m. on March 1st. So this was before the cold front came through. And there's a lot that you can learn. In fact, this map, you can actually make some good predictions about what you can expect. So if you look at the next map,
I see isobars.
Yep.
See a
So
cold front sweeping
isobars are
southeast.
isobars are lines of equal pressure, and fronts define changes in temperature. So you'll notice that if I flip-flop between the 15Z map and the 18Z map, you can see this cold front's moving through, and this giant area of high pressure is basically dominating the atmosphere in the area behind it. So what you can learn from that is, once this cold front goes through, this large high pressure system will become the dominant factor of what the surface weather will be in the Carolinas. So another version of this map we can look at, these include observations. And what you'll notice is there's a lot going on here. But so red value is temperature, green value is dew point. So dew point is a measurement of the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. So real quick, what it basically defines is that if this amount of moisture is equivalent to the maximum amount of moisture that, like the amount of moisture that would be considered saturated at 10 degrees, if that makes sense. So it's 26 degrees, and if the dew point is 10 degrees, that means that the temperature is 26 degrees, and there is enough moisture in the air for, if the temperature dropped to 10 degrees, the air would be considered saturated. So
how cold it gets before dew forms.
We talked about this with Cape too, Neko.
Yeah, we did. And there is a formula that allows you to translate these two values into humidity. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio, because the way that moisture can be held in the atmosphere exponentially rises as temperature increases. But the point is that
the air is more loose, so moisture can flow freely between.
Well, it's because there's warmer air has a higher capacity to hold moisture.
We're talking about complex interactions that affect a lot of different things when you're talking about solubility.
Yeah, the point is that you're seeing some very low dew points behind this cold front with this high pressure system. So you're already seeing low dew points ahead of it, but you're still seeing more low dew points behind it. So what that means is, this is a dry cold front. There's going to be nothing happening with it. So, And if you look at the radar, there's nothing going on. The only thing that's happening is lake effect snow. And the only reason why that's able to happen is because that's utilizing the moisture coming off of the lakes themselves.
Yeah.
There's no moisture, so there's basically no precipitation behind this cold front. So as you move on, keep going, passes over, we'll move over to this one. And you can see the temperatures dropping behind it. Look, in Tennessee, all of a sudden it's now in the 30s.
Yep.
Mind you, there's diurnal effect that needs to be factored into that, but still, look at that. It's 40 degrees, 50 degrees behind this thing. So if we go back to our criteria, this is what happened. That's your answer right there.
Okay.
And this is the visual of that contributing factor. So that's why you're able to have the fires happen beforehand. And despite the fact that it got colder, they were able to still continue even afterwards for a while.
It all has
Yeah, there you go. That completes what I wanted to say.
So dew point and moisture. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's all about the dew point and moisture or lack thereof. And the fact that the changing air mass contributed to a large amount of wind speed and change in wind direction.
You should look up the in your free time, Nico. Like you should look up the Tallahassee tornadoes of last May. I would like your like whenever we see each other again, I would definitely like to hear your thoughts about that.
Tallahassee, Florida. I'm surprised you didn't want to hear more about the snow event that happened earlier this year.
We could do that too.
Not this week though.
Next time we're overtime.
I know,
Okay.
I know.
Our overtime.
Stop caring about the thing you love.
So I didn't want to hit 2 hours this time. So
Yes. All right. So thank you so much, Necronomicon, for coming on and gushing about like science and like informing us all about like science things and preparing a presentation for us as well too.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure to stop by and contribute.
So if people want to check out Necronomicon, the best place to check you out is of course on twitch.tv/Necronomicon, where you do like Fortnite streams on Tuesday evenings, Chrono Hero streams on like Thursday evenings, and some other streams maybe on like the weekend and stream nights as well.
Yeah,
too.
Saturdays, if I manage to stream, is usually a free-for-all. I've done anywhere from more Fortnite to Balatro. I played poker with Geek before. If I have the time and there's something interesting that happened in the recent past, I also do meteorology streams where I will take a certain event and like break it down, or a historical event too. I've done that with a lot of events in the past. The
Challenger.
No. Weather events, not science events.
Yeah. I actually the snow event that happened along the Gulf Coast would actually be a very interesting one to talk about.
Actually, let's do that.
But sometime later.
You do the O-ring, she'll do the weather.
Speaking of Isaiah Taylor, you show off the photos of your cosplay and your like models that you made up, that you built up on like your Instagram, Galactic Cosplay Crafts as well too.
Yeah, and I'm working on one now. But yeah, I'm almost done with my USS Ishtar. If you look, if you find it should be on my Instagram. My
Galactic Cosplay Crafts. Yes,
should be up there. And later in the year, I'm gonna probably start selling these.
Yep. So there's the Instagram for Isaiah's Instagram page. I'm Summer Geek on all the socials, Blue Sky, Tumblr's, Threads. I got a lot of interactions with my Pi Day meme of Cutie Pie. Whoever trans girl is reading this right now.
I posted that in a few other servers of mine, and they were like, "I am in this photo and I don't like it."
Yes.
So
I am on Summer Geek on Twitter. Yes, I'm on Twitter and Tumblr. On Twitch and YouTube. I posted up a video on YouTube on like Friday of me reading the essay by Rudolf Rocker, Marx and Anarchism. Quite interesting, actually. I recommend that as well too. I will stream once I get off this call on Twitch. I'm still not sure what I'm going to be streaming. It's either going to be Skyrim or Forkknife. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll flip a coin and decide. But John Brockman, you're part of another podcast, aren't you?
Dungeons and Debacles. We run around trying to stop an evil cult by being cops. We have not won yet. I'm hoping to replace my stern dragonborn with a cat who got woken up by accident, by a magical accident, and now she claims to be a duchess. No, sorry, a marquess. She's a shadow monk. All right, and with that, everybody, we will go ahead and say goodbye. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Don't forget share the links off page.
Yeah.
Yes. Take care, everyone. Don't forget to
Bye,
sub here.
everybody.
Bye-bye.